Nelson?
Not yet.
I'm on. Okay, Simpson?
Here.
Persian?
Here.
Goldsmith here. Udia? Blake? Saltow? Gorski?
Here. All right, so we have a quorum, not just a majority of a quorum. Thanks, Joe. And so we can proceed. Now, we have a board member that wishes to attend by means and other than physical presence, and I believe it's Trustee Nelson. Is that correct, Trustee Nelson? Yes, it is. Okay, do I hear a motion to allow Trustee Nelson to join this meeting remotely?
So moved.
Moved by Trojan, second by
Simpson?
Simpson. Roll call.
Can Nelson vote? Yes?
No.
No. Simpson?
Yes.
Persian?
Yep.
Goldsmith, yes. Gorski?
Gorski, yes. Trustee Nelson is now an official participant as a trustee in this meeting. Do we have any other board members that are attending by means of other physical? Nope. No, nobody.
The answer is no from my discussions here.
Okay, all right. So, do we have any communications and petitions?
No, we do not.
Okay, well, I have a communication directed to me. Paul Gorski is the board chair from some attorneys in Dixon, Illinois, and I believe it's regarding the Stillman Valley, some financial actions there. And I will be forwarding this to Ellen. Right now, before I forget,
Let the record show that Trustee Gorski walked it over to Ellen.
yeah, and the YouTube video shows that too. Hearing no other communications, petitions, we'll move on to recognition of visitors. Any visitors today? Everybody's looking around. Okay. No, hearing none. Review of the minutes, committee of the whole, January 13th, 2026. Any discussion on that? 1, 2, 3. Hearing none. General presentations. Hearing
There are no general presentations.
Hearing no general presentations. I mixed up the agenda so that we could get the purchase reports done early because there was a question on one of them, and then we'll go through the finance and then operations and teaching and learning. So we're going to open up with the finance discussion, and I'd like to address then H1 purchase reports A, B, and C.
Good evening. The first purchase report is Purchase Report A, FY26 amendments. This item is for $15,000 increase of a total of $50,000 not to exceed. For Enterprise Rent-A-Car, this increase will cover the transportation needs of the athletic teams if the charter bus companies are unavailable to accommodate the dates of tournaments, or if rental cars or vans will be more cost-effective option for the smaller teams. Again, just a reminder that Van Galder was awarded bid 23-08 charter bus services for athletics, and sometimes neither they or WinStar have the availability to meet the needs of the teams. Any questions on this purchase report?
Questions? No?
Okay.
I have a question.
Question from Trustee Nelson.
Alan, have we had a history of using Enterprise previously, or what kind of, does this happen very often, or do we use it, for example, for, I can't imagine what small team we have, but have we used it in the past, or is this just a Band-Aid? I can't remember.
Yes, we have used Enterprise Rent-A-Car in the past several times. Some of the smaller athletic teams like volleyball or bowling, and some of them will use Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And Enterprise Rent-A-Car is the only vendor in this area that has been able to provide the larger vehicles that the teams need.
Any other questions on that one for Ellen? Okay.
All right, purchase report B. Give her a minute to bring it up. All right, the first item on Purchase Report B, FY26 purchases, is for Advanced Training Systems, or ATS, for $101,050. This expense is for a Fleet Master Prime 6-screen full on-cue T-Motion driver, truck driver training simulator for use by the Workforce Development Division. This purchase will match the existing Fleet Master simulators that are located at the ATC. This one will be located at the downtown west location. This package includes on-site training and a 2-year warranty and will be funded by grant and department budgets. Item B is for automatic fire systems for $28,000. This expense is for the quarterly fire sprinkler system inspections and repairs as needed to maintain life safety systems across the college facilities. Automatic Fire Systems provides ongoing inspection, maintenance, and repair services for the college's existing fire sprinkler systems. And with these unusually cold winter conditions during the fiscal year, they've had increased repair needs. So that's going to result in the total annual cost to exceed the threshold required for board approval of $25,000. Item C is to Cengage Learning for $35,000. This is for the educational workforce development training delivered through Cengage Learning's online learning programs. This is due to increased enrollment and other in these programs during the current fiscal year, which has created a need for additional access to the instructional content to support student participation. Item D is for SVL production, not to exceed $68,000, for the purchase and installation of an outdoor-rated Chevy REM3 LED display to support captioning during the performances at Starlight Theater and improve accessibility for patrons. This project was solicited twice under RFP 25-30, captioning for Starlight Theater, and RFP 25-34, captioning display equipment for Starlight Theater. Neither solicitation had received any other responses, and this will be paid by a grant. Item E is for CRX Solutions of $69,626. This is for the commissioning of agent services for the Downtown West Campus. Commissioning is the professional service that includes testing and inspection of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems to verify that the building systems operate as intended and comply with the International Energy Conservation Code. Services will include evaluation of HVAC equipment, systems, and controls, including the building's automated systems, domestic water heating systems, and lighting controls. Are there any questions on this purchase report?
Any question on purchase report B or any of its elements? Hearing none.
Okay.
Well, okay.
And on B, my first question is with,
Which item?
it looks like purchase report B, Roman or A1.
And what's your question on that?
My question is, it says it's paid for with, this equipment will be funded by the grant and department budget. What grant and, how much is the grant and how much department budget, is going across the department budget? And, do the departments that are paying, do they have money in their budget for this expense?
It is the Innovative Bridges and Transition Grant. They'll be paying a portion of it. Do you know how much again? So that grant is expected to pay $70,000 to $80,000, and the rest of it will be paid out of the departmental branches or departmental budgets. And they do have some funds available. They will probably be transferring some things.
Do you know how much the college's responsibility will be in all?
For this,
Yeah.
between $31,000, between $20,000 and $30,000.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Trustee Nelson?
I think so. It's hard to, you know, on the phone, it's hard to hear. I'm getting a reverb when Ellen answers the question. It's hard to totally get the gist of what she's saying. But are we saying that there's only 30,000 coming out of the
20 to 30.
$20,000 to $30,000 is the estimate coming from RVC Resources, which budget would be dependent on what?
It'd be out of workforce development.
Out of workforce development.
So, in other words, we have to come up with the bulk of money or no?
Probably in its
The
budget.
grant will be paying the majority of it.
Has it
Okay,
been-
let's just recap the total amount of the expense, how much the grant is, and how much the college will be. For
Okay.
Trustee Nelson, take it step. What's the total amount?
The total amount is $101,050.
So 101, okay? And then the grant's paying for
Grant
80.
pay 70 to 80,000.
Okay,
Okay, all right, that was my question.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, on B, the automatic fire system, I wasn't clear when I read my packet. Where did the $28,000 come from? Was that over budget we had to spend this year? So we were allotting money to pay bills that are can't pay, or is this extra money in case it gets pulled again and we have the same problem?
I'll take this one.
Okay, Rick's going to take this one.
This one is, this item generally does not go over the $25,000 minimum requirement for board. Because we've had some issues with the cold weather, we've had to dip into this account in order to pay for that. Because we feel in the future, we're going to go over the $25,000 limit, we brought it to the board now so that you can approve the overture of the approve the account over $25,000 so that we can run all the tests and all the annual inspections and things that we need to do.
So is this a preemptive request?
Correct.
Okay. Trustee Nelson?
Yeah, so that's 28,000 extra dollars, not 3,000 extra, right?
No.
The total amount of the expenditure will not exceed $28,000. Prior to that, it was less than $25,000. I don't know exactly how much, but we did ask for more, which took us over the $25,000.
Well, I think I understand your answer, and that's good.
Okay. Any other questions on purchase report B, Trustee Nelson?
I got it.
Okay.
The, I understand that we're working with online workforce training vendor from Independence, Kentucky. Did, and it says it's exempt from quitting. How did we come up with these fees?
I cannot exactly explain how we've come up with Sungage Learning, but we have long had a relationship with Sungage Learning for teaching our continuing education courses.
We have a prior agreement or arrangement with them.
Yes.
Very common.
Honestly, I thought that we had approved a prior contract with them, but I just want to make sure. And they perform reliably, is that right?
I didn't catch that.
They perform reliably. We have no
Yes,
reason to
we've had
question
no
their performance.
issues with them, and their online programs do training, so it helps them prepare for the national examinations.
And to paraphrase, I believe Trustee Goldsmith, she feels that heard about these people as being common and a popular resource in that field. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Any other questions on purchase report B? No? Okay. Let's
Okay.
move on to purchase report C.
Purchase report C is also FY26 purchases. There's one item on here for NKP Metals for $51,346. This is for the fabrication, installation, and painting of new steel handrails and guardrails at the Banks Shostrom Theater, or BST. Base bid work includes providing installation, painting, and new steel handrails and guardrails to improve safety and code compliance within the facility. In addition, alternative one included a removal of existing paint, surface preparation, and repainting of the existing painted handrails or guardrails. Bid 25-32 BST handrails received 2 responses, which were opened on January 13th, 2026. NKP Metals submitted the lowest responsible bid and has been vetted by both the college and OPM, the college's architect of record, and this does include a 10% contingency.
Questions from any of the trustees? And I'll start with Trustee Nelson and then work down the table. Trustee Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe we had questions before on this, on what seems to be a fairly substantial difference in bids between the two bidders. And as I understand it, they're both, that they comply with the responsible bidder ordinance. That's right, isn't it?
Can I
That is
speak to
correct.
this? I'd like to speak to it because President Spearman in our weekly call brought this to my attention, and he too caught the price difference. The vendor, the lowest bidder, complies supposedly with the training requirement for the responsible bidder ordinance, and so does the highest bidder. And then I was trying to find out, for me, it looked like they couldn't even cover the cost of the materials for 50 grand, and then the other one seemed really, really high. But the vendor that is the lowest bidder here has done work in the state of Illinois and has done work for the federal government. They did work for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Chicago Park District, St. Lawrence Seaway, rails and stuff. They tend to specialize in this type of work, it seems, and they seem to be competitive on the pricing whenever they bid on it. So seems to be what their little slice of pie. That's what they do. And unless I can find some reason not to go with them, they would be the bidder that we would award this to. And we know that they do meet the training requirement for the responsible bidder. Do they have a?
We verified that,
I'm speaking to VP Jenks is speaking.
sorry.
Alan, they understand that they have to pay prevailing wage, right?
They understand that.
Yes.
Yeah. But my question is, they meet the responsible bidder ordinance, right? So.
Yes, we verified that they do belong to an entity that provides that training, and that entity, we just heard back from the Department of Labor, is an approved accredited program
Yeah.
through them.
And they also seem to be, they do business as another company. That seems to be woman-owned, minority-owned, and meet all sorts of other.
They are minority and woman-owned. They are
Yeah.
100% BEP.
Yeah, so unless there's something else that would come to our attention, like prevailing wage violations or something like that, I have no reason to kind of question it further, other than just as, if you don't know, this has gone out for bid twice now. And in each case, this vendor came in low and other people were substantially higher. And President Spearman brought it to my attention. We discussed it, and I'm comfortable at this point moving forward with it.
Do we know if they've ever had any complaints for not paying prevailing wage?
Probably not, no.
Well, maybe we can look into that before we have to vote on it, but, I mean, obviously, maybe a tremendous savings to the college.
Yeah, there's something off about this bid, but I don't have enough.
The disparity,
Seems goofy, but I can say, finding other bids with this vendor in it, they usually came in at half the price of other ones when I found their names within bids and similar rail projects in the US. So that seems to be what they do. So, and that was the only item on purchase report C. Does anybody else have a question on purchase report C? Thank you.
Okay, you ready to go on to the next report?
Yep.
All right, the next item is a fund transfer request. This is a follow-up to the January board meeting where I recommended to transfer $1 million from the previously transferred to the OPEB fund, Other Post-Employment Benefits Plan, Fund 19, to Restricted Capital Fund 3 to partially fund the additional increase for the CL2 building project. Any questions?
We had discussed this previously again, so.
Yes.
Any questions? 1, 2, 3. Okay, moving on.
Okay, the next item is the resolution calling for the BINA hearing. The intent of this resolution is anticipation of the obligation to call for a Bond Issue Notification Act public hearing to be held on March 24th, 2026, prior to the scheduled board meeting. At this hearing, the board will present reasons for the proposed bond issue and permit the public to present oral or written testimony on the proposal to sell bonds in an amount not to exceed $7.9 million for the purpose of working cash. The next steps in this process would be March would be the BINA hearing. April, the board would adopt bond parameters. May, the bonds would close, and in June, the board will be asked to approve abatement and reimbursement resolution for the advancement that we are making to the CDB trust account. Are there any questions?
I'd just like to remind everybody, this is consistent and required for board action that we took a couple weeks ago.
Correct.
Any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask.
Sure.
Somebody else has one first.
Go ahead.
Alan, what is the last date that we can decide not to go through the bond process on this?
There is no last.
Have we taken this action already, and this is just part of it?
Well, we have started the process after the board decided to move forward with CL2 with the additional $9.1 million, and we discussed it then. So I have started conversations with PMTA, or previously PMA, on issuing these bonds.
And I believe after discussions with the architect and the capital development board that we'd have to move forward on all of this, pretty quickly to keep the project moving along.
Correct.
And I'm getting it correct and a couple of nod heads on that one. So.
All right. The next item I have is the cash and investment report. Operating cash and investments decreased $269,000, ending the month at $103.6 million. I just want to give a quick explanation for the negative number that is showing for Illinois Bank and Trust. The account at the bank is not negative. We are not overdrawn. The general ledger had recorded over $5 million in outstanding checks that had not been cleared. So we have transferred money at the beginning of February to cover those items as they clear the bank. Total operating cash and investments is at 96.45% of operating budget as of January 31st. Working cash funds declined $187,619 due to a transfer to reimburse the operating accounts for work completed on the Health Science Center third floor projects. And capital funds decreased by nearly $6 million to $65.5 million as of January 31st due to disbursements for the Downtown West project. Are there any questions on the cash and investment report?
I have no questions in person. How about questions from Trustee Nelson?
Alan, and I know there's maybe a couple further reports. I just have my standard question.
We're fine.
Are we in good shape?
Yeah, then we're
We are.
fine.
We're fine.
Okay.
If now here are no other questions, let's move on.
Okay, the next report is the second quarter vital signs. You go to the third page, I think.
And I'll ask John's question even before you start the report. We're fine.
We're fine.
Oh, we're fine. There you go.
So operating funds, Fund 1 and 2 revenue are at $41.3 million as of December 31st, or 59.61% of budget, or 71.94% of budget excluding the SERS on behalf. State government is running behind budget, and we are expected to fall approximately short by $1.6 million, or 13.8%. As I mentioned previously, at the January board meeting, state appropriations will continue to perform behind budget expectations. And as a reminder, other sources includes the employee retention tax credit that we received in August for $3.8 million. And if we exclude that from the number, we still place at 65% of budget, excluding the SERS on behalf, as of December 31st. You want to go to the next slide, please? Operating expenses were at $23.1 million as of December 31st, or 35.24%, or 43.04% of budget excluding SERS on behalf. Expenses are projected to be at or below budget right now for the fiscal year. I want to go 3 slides into Fund 5, please. Auxiliary Fund, Fund 5, as a reminder, that includes the Center for Learning and Retirement, Community Education, Workforce Development, Athletics, and Starlight Theater, and at the end of December, it had a net expense of $206,823. There you go, now you can see it. Any questions on these financials so far before I get to the rest of the report?
Take questions from the people in nope. Okay, Trustee Nelson, questions?
Same question I always ask.
We opened up with that one. We're fine.
We're fine. So if we go to the payroll year-to-date slide, please. Perfect. Payroll year-to-date is running under budget, and year-to-date is about the same as fiscal year '25, and we expect to continue this trend. And if you go 2 more slides, 2 more slides in.
Question on the,
Trustee Trojan has a question.
do you anticipate the underage to continue through the rest of the year on labor?
I do. We continue to have open positions that we don't fill immediately, and so we'll always have a gap.
Any other questions at this time?
All right, we'll go to group medical cost. So group medical cost is running 11.7% ahead of budget and 12% higher than fiscal year '25. The challenges in this area are the high cost of medical services, high cost of specialty and non-specialty prescription drugs, and sometimes we have an unhealthy covered population of employees and dependents. We will continue to monitor our health costs and and if you go to the next slide, healthcare cost per employer participant is nearly the same as compared to last year. Any questions?
Questions, Bob?
So what was the unusual bump in December?
We had a lot of claims come in the month of December as people were probably trying to get in procedures before the change of the new year.
They were trying to get their medical checkups before the end of the year, is that it?
Yep.
So would we see then a drop-off in the medical expenses January, February then?
I would hope so, but I
would
got
hope
the
so.
feeling no.
Well, let's watch that one. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Healthcare is just very expensive right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
So that concludes this report. And then the last thing I have, it's informational only, but we've provided you the quarterly report of purchases between $10,000 and $25,000.
Okay, any other questions on finance? Hearing none, let's move on to operations. Thank you very much, Ellen. Hand it over to Board Liaison, Trustee Trojan. And Bob is handing it off. Could I sorry, I don't want to screw you up too much. You got the downtown west, but we just talked about the financing for CL2. Could you give me the CL2 update first, or does that screw up your workflow?
No, it's fine. The CL2 update is there really no update. We're waiting for the financing.
That's what I thought.
We're waiting for the financing to occur and for the approvals that Ellen is putting forth so that we can get money into the PMA or PTMA or whatever it's called now account so that CDB can move forward with the project.
Okay. So that just puts a little bow on CL2 for this evening. Okay, thanks.
My next presentation, or this presentation will be on the downtown west campus. Couple of I don't know. How do I know if it's on?
Strategic.
Did my agenda change,
Oh,
break
there
the
it is.
technology?
That's all right. I got it. There we go. Sorry about that. It was not on. So, again, this is just the mission and vision statement for the college. We have the 4 pillars. The downtown campus is reflected in all of these 4 pillars, but the main one would be access. So we'll be discussing the downtown campus as it relates to that. I want to talk about ASIs. ASIs are Architect Special Instructions. They're issued when a clarification is needed on a particular item in a project, or if there's a requirement for information to the construction contractors. They can be issued at any time, and sometimes they take extra work. When I stepped in and started looking at the project, there were 9 open and pending ASIs. Several were quite old, months old. So I worked with the architect and the contractor because they were having some difficulties coordinating those ASIs. And currently we have resolved 6 of those ASIs, and actually, technically, I got a resolution today on the 7th. And we're looking to get the other ones completed within the next 2 weeks. The importance of this is part of the process in building a building is the contractors have to have information. Once they have the information, they can go build stuff actually pretty quickly. So not only do we have to be concerned about the actual physical labor and whether or not they can physically hang the drywall and do all those things that they need to do, we need to make sure that the information is available to them so that they can make those decisions and move forward. And that's where, in my preliminary investigations into things, that seems to be where the holdup has been. We're starting to now break through that, and things are moving forward much quicker, and the prospect is looking better. Once we get the rest of this information out, the construction manager and I will be reviewing the schedule to identify any additional choke points and see if there's any overtime that might be needed. As of right now, it's looking pretty good, but I still will reserve the notion that we may have to do some overtime.
Bob.
Do you think, in your best guess, that the results of your effort will have pulled back the schedule to be on schedule?
All indications are, when I talk to the construction manager, that we are moving towards closing that gap back or getting back to being on schedule. They're a little more optimistic than I am. Right now, I'm saying we're moving towards it, so I expect that we will continue to do that, but I am a pessimist, so I'm not going to say that we're there yet.
And if you need to have the overtime, you just go ahead and do it. You don't come to us and ask, you do it, right?
Well, they'll have to come to office if it extends.
Well, I think we should give them provisional go-ahead.
Right.
Rather than wait 2 weeks to come to us.
Well,
We should tell them now, yes, you can do it if you need it.
what I can do right now, next item on the list is the contingencies. You'll see that we're at about 300,000 on the contingencies. We have 2.2 million available to us.
Right.
So it could just be a contingency item that we could do, which case in the procedures, you have authorized me through the purchasing policy to do those change orders, so we could do it that way. And that way, you would still be made aware of it because I would come back to you every month with the change orders.
I just don't want to see having to come to the board as a reason to delay the project. If you need the overtime, you just do it.
Currently, the way that I'm projecting to do it, we should be good to go and still following our normal processes.
Okay.
Yeah, if they eat up all the contingency with overtime, Bob, they should come back to us, because then we're going to have to come back and knock some heads
That's all you
together on the
stuff, yeah, of
architect and the construction manager. You were saying you were being polite and diplomatic, I believe, with coordination errors. Was it just a communication breakdown between the construction manager and the architect? There's three partners in this: us, the client,
Yes.
the construction manager, and
Things
The
are working
architect.
better now that we're in the middle.
He's got the ball bat out, basically. Come on, Rick.
No, there was some difficulties in their conversations between the architect and the construction manager, and a lot of disagreements. Those disagreements generally do not occur when RVC is in the middle and we understand both sides of the situation and we come to a resolution.
Trustee Nelson had a question. No, it's not.
Don't have to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This myself. And you are, Paul is.
Well, if my basic math is right, we'd be on the order of $1.5 to $1.6 million in overtime concerns. And if that was the concern, there'd be more than just a few meetings going on. So,
Yeah, I don't foresee that happening.
yeah, so. All right. We've talked about, allocation of resources, and we've repeated the board's desire to assist in any way we can. I don't see us making any progress on that topic right now, so continue.
So the next items is the list of change orders for this particular project. There have been two since the last time I brought this towards you. One was a security cabling change, which is actually for the exterior doors and how they're integrated with the automatic door openers. And the second one is for some hollow metal frame adjustments that needed to be done once they did a final review. That actually is part of one of the ASIs that was bogged down that has been since resolved.
Any questions? All right, let's move on.
So that's it for that particular presentation. The next item is actual change orders for other projects. The first one is for the athletic soccer fields. In reviewing the information, we determined that when we had looked at the fence that was going to be around the soccer field, we did not include an 8-foot gate, which would have allowed us to bring some of the equipment necessary in to maintain the fields. So we did do an adjustment there for $3,795 for actually 2 gates to allow the equipment to come in and out without creating too many issues. The next item
Is this project on schedule?
Yes. The next item should be, not that one, there we go. Should be the tuck pointing phase 2. This one was already brought to the board, if you recall, so this is just our paperwork catching up with the request for the additional $40,000 that was requested at the last board meeting. So this is just paperwork. The next item is the HSC second floor elevator. You can see that we had an additional change order at the end. This was for adding a divider curtain system in room 3254. Basically, once they started to occupy the space, an area where they didn't think they were going to need a privacy curtain, they have decided that they would like to have that privacy curtain to help with the instructional means and methods. So we added that item to be installed.
So this job is running under contract, under your cost estimate?
It's running, it's running under the cost. We will not use all of the contingency. It is not on time, though. It is, the elevator has been delayed.
Delayed due to product unavailable? Weather? Communication?
Due to the product not being available and, mainly scheduling issues with elevators. They're kind of a difficult item to get installed sometimes.
Okay.
There's only certain people who can do it.
So vendor lack of resources, or?
Difficulty scheduling sometimes, yes.
I'm uncomfortable with the vagueness of your answer, but I'm not going to push it anymore, so.
You know,
These things get delayed on their own volition. That kind of I have a flash in my head of a cartoon of an elevator just sitting there with it sitting on an arm, and I'll wait to saying, I think I'm just going to wait for my next cup of coffee before I get out the RVC. Yeah, I think there's something more to it than that. So, thank you. Please continue.
The next item is the personnel report. We have one item listed there. It's just a placeholder. They are currently going through the process of conducting interviews for the Executive Director of Institutional Design, Teaching, and Innovation. It's a full-time position, and they hope to have this position filled in the next week to week and a half, and we are hoping to bring it to the next board meeting.
And Ellen told us we have lots of money for it, so there you go.
Question.
Go ahead. No, Bob first, thanks.
2 weeks ago, we approved an additional person for the foundation so we could raise more money. Where is that one?
Well, there's a process that needs to be gone through in order to get the
2
position
weeks.
filled.
We've had 2 weeks. I mean, this is to raising money. This ought to be hot on the top of the list.
Perhaps Terica could comment
sir.
on
It's
the
never done by
onboarding of a brand-new position that is not filling a new one.
Correct, yes. With a brand-new position, we have to go through a job analysis process, and that's what we are finalizing now. Once that is completed, then we will be able to get that position onboarded and to post it.
Will we see that at the board meeting in 2 weeks?
We are looking to get it done as quickly as possible. I cannot guarantee that, no, sir.
Bob, this isn't like your small firm. Most of the firms ago would take, well, one of them took 6 months to create it because everybody was fighting over who they were going to report to. There's no reporting structure problem here.
Right.
It's just the duties and how it might affect or align with other ones, and probably be consistent with other people in similar industries and stuff like that. So sometimes that takes 2 to 3 to 4 weeks alone. So I'm guessing we won't see this until maybe a 2-month out cow. And you don't have to promise anything. Don't go on the hook for anything right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
All we want to do is raise more money.
Yes, sir, I understand. We are going to get it done as quickly as possible.
I think they're happy enough that we pushed it along, Bob.
But we're not happy enough. We want to see the person in place so we can start raising more money.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Bob, you want the best person, though. Second. You want the
Okay,
best person to
no
raise
more
the
questions on this. We're going to move off to Rick. Sorry, John, you missed out.
The last item or the second to last item I have is the calendar of events, which is included in your packet. There's a couple of items. One of the bigger notations is that February is Black History Month, and we have several items related to that in our schedule. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. In addition, we have the town hall meeting at the Student Center atrium. That's that would be on the 25th. That is where Dr. Spearman and the administration team will talk to the rest of the college about state of the college. Thank you. That's what I couldn't think of, the state of the college. Board members are welcome to attend if they so wish to do so. The other item that I will bring up is the mathematics competition on February 28th, the ICTM mathematics competition. That is a worthwhile event if you get a chance to come out and watch it. When I used to work in patrol here at the college, I was here many times during these events, and it is quite chaotic, but it is actually very fascinating to see all the kids running around and doing the math competition. So I strongly recommend it if you have the opportunity to come. Any questions or concerns?
Questions? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
And then the last item is an informational only item regarding the positions, Human Resources FY26 second quarter report.
Hearing no questions, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Teaching, Learning, Communications Liaison, Trustee Goldsmith.
Gonna hand it over to VP Snyder.
Okay.
Thank
Can we just
you.
get that recorded so we just push buttons for all of us? Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. The enrollment update is not much changed since your packet was released, just based on the time we're at in the semester. As of today, spring is 1.6% ahead of last year, 9% ahead of budget, and 5% ahead of the stretch goal. With all semesters combined, we're 3.6% ahead of last year, 8% ahead of budget, and 3% ahead of the stretch goal. Summer registration opens on March 2nd, so that'll fill up that last row there for the fiscal year. And then fall registration opens the week of March 16th, so we'll start looking at the next year as well. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Your spring, I'm sorry, your fall to spring number, there's a gap there. It's lower in the spring. Do you anticipate it catching up to the fall enrollment?
No, typically spring is always lower than fall enrollment. I will buy everybody in this room pizza if we ever meet the same for fall enrollment.
And I would buy a pizza for everybody in this room if the trustees would just remember that she's probably told us this 3 times in the last 2 months.
I've seen the reports where it shows that the spring is up over the fall.
No, the spring typically is not up over the fall.
I've seen the reports.
Okay.
The Alamoni's down the street. They'll take it
I
out of the
downloaded them from your internet, your report portal.
Yeah, you're looking at the student profile?
Yeah.
The student profile, depending on which, if you're looking at the fall and spring 14th days, those are the ones that include additional enrollments in adult education, and sometimes those can be different if we have more adult education offered in the spring than the fall. So that could be the difference there, but I will take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry, Bob. John's not here in person, so I have to pick on somebody, so I'm just picking on you. So.
John's not here, so you're picking on me?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. John's,
Don wants.
Thank you for your report. Thank you very much.
thank
Now,
you.
I think President Spearman was maybe been a little put off saying, why are you putting teaching and learning last? Because there's an important workforce development metrics update there. This is kind of like, wait, the other part of it is my peach pie, and this is like the whipped cream on top. You're just finishing off the evening here. So thank you very much. If you have something relevant, yes.
Carly. Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for the update.
It's surreal here.
Okay.
I'd be glad to get back.
Well, thank you for joining. You have a fine evening now.
Bye.
You as well.
Behave yourself, John. Behave yourself, John. I'm not there to shepherd you around.
All right, sorry to interrupt, so thank you.
Good evening, trustees. So I'm doing a presentation on workforce development, and the presentation of metrics for workforce development is something new we are doing. So I did it last year. This will be the second year I'm doing it. So I'll be doing a comparative analysis between all the programs that constitute workforce development between FY24 and FY25. So what programs make up workforce development? They are truck driver training, CNC machining, collision repair, and tech works, which happens in the Winnebago County Jail. So I'll start off by saying that our gross revenue overall for workforce development dipped slightly between FY24 and FY25. That is primarily because of truck driver training, and I'll explain what happened there as I progress along in the presentation. So we started off overall at $1 million in FY24, and we dipped to $931,000 in FY25. As I mentioned, that decline was solely responsible for by truck driver training. So with Tech Works that operates in the Winnebago County Jail, we saw a profit between FY24 and FY25, $17,000 in FY24 and $54,000 in FY25. But I would say that that was almost entirely due to staffing, in terms of we used to pay 2 people's salaries out of that budget line. One person full-time, the instructor for TechWorks, was paid from that line, and then we paid another member in the division part of their salary from that. So for FY25, we removed that from there, and that's why the profit margin is a little bit larger for FY25. For CNC machining, revenue streams grew. It grew from $216,000 in FY24 to $265,000 in FY25. So there was roughly in FY24 a $28,000 profit, whereas in FY25 there was a $42,000 profit for CNC machining. For collision repair, there was a loss in the very first year because, you know, we were trying to do a startup. It was a sort of launch and investment program, and we had to buy equipment and supplies. But that improved in FY25 because our gross revenue for FY25 for collision repair amounted to $71,500. Truck driver training, so revenue and enrollment. So for truck driver training, it remains our largest revenue generator. The amount of revenue generated was $480,000 in FY24, but we experienced a dip from FY24 to FY25, and that was not because of operational constraints, was driven by operational constraints, but rather more so, it was not driven by student demand, but more by operational constraints, because the majority of students in TDT rely on grant funding to pay for tuition. And if you know how grants are awarded, grants are given by the state, we have to go through a contract, we have to sign it, send it back and so forth. And the disbursement of the funds, there was a lull in time between when those funds were disbursed. So that hindered or impeded a couple of cohorts of students from getting enrolled in the program because there was no funding to pay for their tuition.
There's no scholarship opportunities for them?
Not for all of them. I mean, you know, that's why the grants were written in the first place for, to take care of that. But as I said, it's because of that situation with the funding being impeded or delayed, that is what resulted in that. But anyway, so in FY24, we had $675,000, FY25, $480,000. The profit for FY24 was $192,000. Profit for FY25 was $118,000. If you look at the enrollments also dipped because of what I just mentioned. We had in FY24, we had 139 students enrolled, but in FY25, we had 95 students enrolled, a couple of students well less because of that lull in registration. What I would say, though, is that despite the lower volume, the program maintained a strong 93% completion rate and credential attainment in both FY24 and FY25. So that remains strong regardless of what, which is testament to the fact that instructional quality remained very high during operational challenges. For CNC machining, I would say that the performance was at a high level. Enrollment held steady. We had 29 students in FY24 and 30 students in FY25. But the completion rate drew drastically from 62% in FY24 to 80% in FY25. And one of the primary reasons for that is that we hired a workforce development coordinator, and that person provided counseling services and provided that level of support to students such that, whatever was going wrong with the students, they had somebody reaching out and providing that kind of wraparound services that the students needed. So that was different than when I first arrived, because when I first arrived, that position was housed in TDT doing something different, and it was revamped to make sure that that person serves as a support service person for all workforce development programs. So that has really helped with this completion rate jumping. When it comes to the program maintained a solid 78% job placement rate. Roughly 34 students get placed each year, indicating that our graduates continue to meet immediate needs of local manufacturers. When I shift now to collision repair, enrollment and completion, the program grew in enrollment by 62% and achieved 100% completion rate in FY25. So there were 8 students in FY24 and 13 students in FY25. And in FY24 and FY25, collision repair had 100% credential attainment. Again, testament to how strong the program is. What I would say, though, if you look at the statistics, our job placement numbers dipped by about 20%. So we had 87% in FY24, but now we have 67%, and that's primarily because the employer feedback is that our students need to have deeper technical skills, which was a bit funny for me, because I was in the room with them when we had them devise the curriculum. They said what the skill set needed to be, what the knowledge base needed to be. There was no input really from us because they were the experts, and it was about 20 or 25 collision repair shops. So, all we could do is just go with their feedback. So what we intend to do is go back to the table, and we hope to improve that curriculum for FY27 to make sure it meets employer demand or employer need, because they are the ones who said the students don't have sufficient technical knowledge to be able to do what they require them to do. So it is what it is, so we'll take care of that. And the last thing I'll talk about is tech works in the county jail. There's a slight statistical dip in completion, 75%, but this is not a reflection of academic dropout. Non-completions in this program are almost exclusively due to early releases or transfer to other facilities. Retention among students who remain in the facility is close to 100%, so those students who do remain. So enrollments have remained consistent with 55 students in FY24 and 53 students in FY25. So as I said, the only control, we don't have control of when people get released, when people are moved and things of that nature, But, so what the hope is, especially Trustee Trojan, I know you like this, is to make sure that next year when we get the numbers, we do a 3-year comparison of numbers between FY24, 25, and 26 when this presentation is done, to look at how we have been doing, over the period of the last 3 years. This has only been for 2 years because, as I said, we just started doing this particular procedure to account for what happens in workforce, not only in terms of revenue, but in terms of enrollment, in terms of completions, in terms of job placements, and credential attainment too as well. Any questions for anybody, from any
Questions?
board member?
Bob?
You didn't cover welding, is that?
No, welding is a credit program. These are
Credit
non-credit,
program.
yes. Workforce development,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, I should have said that. Workforce development at RVC is all non-credit. So that will be truck driver training, tech works,
Right.
collision repair, CNC machining. Yeah.
Just another comment. You've used the word TechWorks a number of times. Way back when it was at the Eiger Lab, we had called it the Lundin Learning Center.
Oh.
Anybody remember what Lundin Learning Center meant?
No.
No.
Remember Lundin, the name Lundin?
No.
Ann does.
Yes.
John Lundin was the director of the Ability Center way back when it was located on, 20th Street? And he was the creator of the TechWorks program. And when he passed away in 2006 or 7, I think it was, we had named that facility when it was at the Eiger Lab, the Lundin Learning Center. There was a sign and the whole 9 yards. I don't know that that exists today, but I don't know if it's even possible to somehow rename it in his honor.
Okay.
Because, you know, the guy was, those of us who knew him, he was just, we used to call him the Renaissance man, because he was just so creative in a number of different things. And he was the primary motor to get the Eiger Lab up and running way back when there was really a facility. And of course, the TechWorks was one of his little things that he did. But anyway, you know, food for thought.
Yeah.
But it's just some commentary I wanted to make about John Lundin in particular. In fact, he was a teacher at Rock Valley College for a while, way back when. And he also wrote a very interesting book which talks about the manufacturing companies in Rockford, which is, I think you can get it on Amazon. But, you know, it's just, I knew him very well, and so I just want to let you know a bit of the history about the TechWorks.
Thank you so
name.
much.
Well, we appreciate that, Bob, but I would recommend Dr. Smith pass it along to the administration for, see how relevant it would be. But in addition to that, see if there's an opportunity to get some type of, you know, branding funding, you know, for that name or any other name. Take any other opportunity we can. I do have a question. You mentioned profit. What goes into your expense category to determine profit?
Well, I mean, Alan, you want to? And just to say that, we call it net revenue or profit. That's, I use those terms interchangeably. Net revenue or profit.
Right.
So the expenses would be any direct expenses for the program, so that would include compensation, benefits, supplies, the whole 9 yards.
The lease on, I mean, our bond debt, the parking lot
No,
maintenance or
that's
anything?
considered overhead. So that does not include overhead. It's just expense directly for the program.
Well, see, we've had discussions, and this is, I'll take this up with Dr. Spearman, as recently as when we were talking about CL2, you know, and then enrollment for it and the investment in it, and we had the similar discussions for the downtown campus. You might not spend a lot of money for faculty or whatever for those individuals, but we're spending 80 million, 65, because the other stuff's going to the elevator, so 65 to 70 on a couple of buildings. And somewhere along that has to fit into the equation of whether or not, you know, the programs are actually, you know, profitable. So in a business sense, I don't buy the net revenue profit loss thing for an institution, because we're bonding out for a boatload of stuff, and it's going to be tough to. The question at the last meeting, in the meeting, when we're spending X amount and we're appropriating even more money that we're going to be voting on later this month. So just saying, it'll tweak me as long as I'm on the board if to talk about a profit for revenue bringing in. Yeah, but full profit for me would include the space, the everything else. In my business, that's what too. So, any other questions? Do you have an informational only update then, or that was already done? Faculty tenure? Okay. All right. Other business, unfinished business, new business, I would refer to the administrative that Bob brought up regarding naming and/or my second opportunity to raising money through the branding opportunity. So, any other unfinished or new business? Hearing none, the next Board of Trustees meeting is February 24th, 2026, 5:15 p.m. This meeting will be held in the Performing Arts Room, PAR, Room 0214, in the Educational Resource Center, ERC, on this main campus. And then the next Committee of the Whole meeting is March 10th, 2026, at 5:15 p.m. This meeting will be held in the Performing Arts Room, PAR 0214, Educational Resource Center on the main campus. And before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I want to thank very much for Trustee Nelson for calling in, but very much so for the trustees that showed up today. You allowed us to continue the meeting, respect staff's time so we wouldn't have to reschedule this, and then allowed our fellow trustees and staff to participate in a lobbying effort. So thank you very much. So we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Simpson, trustee Trojans raising his hand. Okay. Roll call.
Simpson,
Yes.
Persian,
Yep.
Goldsmith, yes. Gorski.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned.
Very much.
Thank you.
You didn't even have to kick me once. So.